Greetings, everyone. I am Sisi for Sisi on Air. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a guest that is going to talk to you about his business and how it can benefit us. And his name is Jay Casey. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I am doing great. So, you have a company that's called Six Zeros. First of all, tell us how you arrived at that name for your company.
Yeah, so 6 zeros, what it is whenever you're using colors or using colors online, you can't use terms like black, white, red, blue. You have to use certain codes. They're called hex codes.
Okay.
And so 6 zeros is how you make the color black.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a way of talking about or celebrating our heritage as black people, but doing it in a coded fashion. It's cool. It looks cool. The logo looks cool, but it's basically just saying blackness, but using hex code to express that blackness.
Well, that is fantastic. And it's also interesting because if we go back to our ancestors in slavery, we know that they also had to do things in code in order to make things happen. I read how some women, they would braid rice into the hair so that they would have food. We know that they had to speak in code when making an attempt to escape. They had to use certain terms and certain words. So it all kind of correlates. So that's very interesting. Now,
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Sorry. We see in society, the dominant society, they use symbolism all the time. Symbolism is important, symbolism, imagery, it's very important. So we should have our own symbolism too. We don't have to just have everything out in the open. You could see 6 zeros. I'm very mindful about who I tell. About what 6 zeros means. Obviously, people are gonna find out, but there's gonna be a lot of people that see 6 zeros and they'll never know what it means, and that's perfectly fine.
Right, right. Well, we do live in a world that is controlled by symbolism. I mean, this has been going on from the beginning of time. I still see it today. I see a lot of these great monuments and buildings that have been built here in St. Louis, Missouri. You see pyramids on top of the governmental buildings. You see gargoyles. You see Egyptian, statues and things. And, people kind of tend to just gloss over and ignore it, but it's all symbolism. So, it definitely plays a part in society today. I even
Yeah,
see
they
people
put
with lions on the outside of their homes. I see two lions out there.
Yeah, I see that sometimes too, and a lot like they put our history right in front of our face.
Mhm.
They venerate our history, but they won't tell you like the Washington Monument. It's just our history right there, and they're saying, this was a powerful civilization. We trace civilization back to, a great African civilization, and we walk by it and just say that's the Washington Monument, not knowing that that's African history right in front of your face.
Yes, and they want to draw from certain powers as well, and that's getting a little bit deep. But yes, symbolism definitely means something. So we can appreciate what you have done. Now, so before we get too deep, why don't you tell us what Six Zeros is exactly?
So 6 zeros. We have multiple properties. We're a media entity, but our bread and butter is it's an internet form, and basically it's a social media alternative. So what we do is we just provide a platform for Black people to speak to one another about subjects that are important to us. It doesn't. It could be current events. It could be about music. It could be about relationships. But it's just a space for us to talk about those things that are important to us, because what we're seeing over and over again is censorship. The censorship on social media is growing day by day. And as you know, as Black Americans and Black people in general, as we get more and more on code, we cannot expect that the dominant society is going to let us leverage their media platforms to be able to help us get on code. That's just not a good expectation. They're not going to let us use their tools as weapons against them. So as we see, they're censoring things that we say. When we talk too much about black empowerment, then they want to, they start muting you or they shadow ban you. Judge Joe Brown had a great post a couple days ago where he talked about he was trying to post some documentation on Twitter and he was getting banned. I mean, not banned. They weren't allowing him to post the information.
Mm-hmm.
So as black people, do we really want an algorithm made in San Francisco or Silicon Valley by a company that won't even hire us?
Mm-hmm.
Um, do we want them to determine what is good and not good discourse in our community? That's not a good idea. So I created 6 zeros for us to have that space for us to talk to one another and communicate and share any thoughts that we want.
Okay, well, that's definitely commendable because there are many independent media and peoples being blocked from saying what needs to be said, and we know that we are definitely being blocked. But some would say, well, it's not just Black people being blocked. There's all kinds of people being blocked. What would you say to that?
I don't care. Doesn't matter. What's irrelevant? What does that got to do with me? I don't care. I don't care if the donut shop committee convention is being blocked because Twitter doesn't like glazed donuts. Has nothing to do with a black agenda, so it's irrelevant to me. I know that my people are being blocked. I
Right.
know I've been blocked, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm only concerned about my community. That's it, and I'm gonna give
Mm.
my community a forum to speak.
Right. Well, amen to that. I believe in what you're saying. Now, talk to us about who your supporters are. Like, are there collaborators on your platform, your project here?
So on our blog,
Mm,
we have articles and we have guests. So some of our blogs are written by members of the forum,
mm.
but as far as the forum and the organization of 6 zeros, there's no partners in it.
Okay, no partners in it. So this is just manned by you, basically. This is you promoting what you're doing. You don't have like an organization behind you, a sorority or a fraternity or anything like that.
No, no, we're not linked in with the boule if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
This is not a boule entity. A boule entity. We're not gonna just hit you with a curveball and start talking about intersectionality
You're not about to
and
throw up no triangles on us.
yeah, no
Okay.
divestment talk or anything like that. No, so we're a actual organization. We have a small staff, but there's no entity that's backing it. There's no financier.
Mhm.
I'm very where this is what a lot of people don't understand about business.
Mhm.
When you take investment, it's no longer your company. Whoever gave you the investment, they control the company. You might be administrating it or managing it, but whoever controls the money is going to control the business. So 6 zeros, if I took financing from Fox, let's say they say, hey, we're gonna invest 2 million into 6 zeros, what's
Mhm.
gonna happen is when you say white supremacy,
Mm.
someone's gonna tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, white supremacy, that's a strong term. Why don't you say the impacts of racial fisticuffs? And you're like, yo, that totally like ruined the message though. But they're like, if
Exactly.
you don't change it, that 2 million is gonna disappear and your site's gonna go away. So, you gotta be careful about who you take money from. So we're not
Yes,
taking money
yes.
from anybody. We take donations, but the site's running. We got money to run the site. We got money to market it,
Mhm.
and it's just gonna keep growing and growing. And we also monetize it. We have premium memberships. We got donations. We have a shop where we have merchandise. So we're coming out with all these different ways of monetizing the site. So we don't have to worry about getting investment from the dominant society.
Well, that's good to know. And because of that, let's go ahead and segue to what you were talking about. Basically, who don't bite the hand that feeds you is kind of what you're saying. What would you say about the massive disbursement of the PPP loans?
Uh, In what regard? Like the scammers or?
Well, what do you think about it in general as a quote boost in the economy and to just help business people in general? Do you think that that was a good opportunity for people, or do you think it is kind of just kind of getting in the bed with the government and you shouldn't have done that, or what do you think about it?
No, I think that you have to look at what everybody has a hand of cards, and you got to look at what's the next best move for you.
Mhm.
The PPP loan, uh, it was so it was so large and so distributed that I don't think it's not the same as like a venture capitalist fund investing in you, because if a venture capitalist fund invests in you, they're going to want a return on investment. So they're going to be tightly knit into your operation. Whereas a PPP loan, they're not. There's some loose requirements that you had to follow. And as long as you followed those requirements, you were good. I think it was just such a wide investment that I don't think if you took the money to make sure you have some liquidity to hold you over. I
Hmm.
don't think you were basically compromising your operation, but you at the end of the day you got to play your cards however you can to make sure your next move, your next you got to make sure that you always make more options for yourself. You don't want to take your next step and you have less options. You want to take your next step and now you have more options at your avail, so that when life throws its curveballs, you have multiple plays you can make. So you always want to move like that. So if taking the PPP loan put you in a position where you have more options at your avail, then you're good. If
Hmm.
you sometimes taking venture capitalist money, it's going to give you less options. It might look like more options, but
Hmm.
as you start moving, you realize that your voice is muffled. You realize that your mission has changed, and you end up having less options, or your options are completely different than the options you wanted in the beginning. So,
Wow.
um, long story short, you gotta you make your next move your best move.
Right. So stay on top of your game, basically. Know what you're
Exactly.
doing. And
Exactly.
I like what the Bible says. The Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. Because if you have a vision before you, then you're less likely to deviate from that path. And when somebody throws something at you, you can say, well, that's not in my plan, and just decide not to do it.
Exactly. Always have an agenda. If you don't have an agenda,
Hmm.
then you're gonna be blowing with the wind. If you
Yeah.
have an agenda, then you can see where the wind's blowing and say, okay, is this breeze going where I want to go? If it's not, I'm gonna have to get a headwind. Sometimes if the breeze is going the way you want, then you get a tailwind, and you coasting. But sometimes you got to go against the wind.
Right, right. Well, sometimes you put your kite out there and you're gonna be flying it and you'll be all right, but sometimes not so much. You
Absolutely.
mentioned the scammers. I kind of cringe when I think about that. I know a lot of people got caught up in that situation with the loans. Do you know anyone personally who got caught up in a scam or scandal?
If I did, I wouldn't say.
Oh, you wouldn't say you just yes or no?
No, I don't know any. I don't be in people's business like that. I don't really care. I don't be focused. I'll be focusing on my personal agenda.
Okay.
I don't know if I know anybody that was scamming.
Uh-huh.
I just really I keep my head down and focus on what I gotta do, and
Right.
that's it. So I don't know. And if I did know, I probably wouldn't say nothing.
Okay, well, that's definitely respectable and commendable. Now, how would you say that you get business advice? Do you have a group of people or a circle of people that you converse with, or what do you have?
Yeah, so I have trusted advisors, and
Mhm.
a lot of my business advice is, I mean, my business acumen
Mhm.
has come from just stumbling. A lot of times we like to look at. I'm not going to generalize, but a lot of times as people we like to look at what we don't have, and then we'll
Mhm.
look at what we don't have and use that as a reason to not take that first step.
Uh-huh.
And so I never had that mind state. I always looked at, okay, what do I do have, what is the hand of cards that I have now, and how
Right.
can I play this hand. And so I always looked at life like that. So I always had multiple businesses. I always uh always try to sell something or take $1 and turn it into $2. And
Mm-hmm.
in doing that, I learned a lot of lessons about business. I learned about how certain cultures are grimy, how they're shady, and how
Right.
taking is a part of their culture, and there's nothing wrong with it to them. If you put yourself in a position where they can take from you, they'll just take from you with. So I've seen that firsthand. I've lived it. I've had people I've hired try to take my business and look me in the eyes and say, "I made this business." I'm like, "No, I made this business. I hired you." I've seen businesses scale and how we had to put controls into place to make sure that the business is running efficiently and making sure that we had the right records and
Mm-hmm.
the right data. So like I said, I have people that I can lean on when I need to, and I also have a lot of history of just getting into business and stumbling and learning
Mm-hmm.
those lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Experience sometimes is the best teacher. You can read a book, you can have the theoretical knowledge, but
Mm-hmm.
theoretical knowledge doesn't always apply in the real world, because the real world, there's so many different variables, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't write a book for every single variable. And so that's where your realistic real world knowledge plus your intelligence, you combine those, and then you're able to weather the storm. So there's things that I see happen in 6 zeros
Mm-hmm.
that I've seen before. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna go this way, I'm gonna move this way, or
Mm-hmm.
this guy's already given me the Hollywood spiel. I know he's not gonna come through.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to see these things now. You develop your intuition. So I know I'm kind of going off, but yeah. So I
No, no
have.
such thing, no such thing, because we're here to find out about you and your business, because as we are skeptical of the things going on, the more information, the more informed that we can be, the better off we are. So no, we commend you for that.
Thank
Now,
you.
you spoke on experience. Now, when you're dealing in small business and business alone, how important do you think that it is to be able to touch every part of your business versus always hiring things out?
Uh, that's a great question. I think that I the more you know,
Mhm.
the less people can get away with.
Mhm.
So I think that you have to have a healthy balance. You have to know all the different inner workings in your business.
Mhm.
But as your business scales, you cannot control everything.
Right.
If you try to control everything, you all you do is hinder the business, because you're only one person. There's only 24 hours. You have to
Mhm.
sleep, you have to eat. You
Right.
end up running yourself into the ground.
Mhm.
So, you got to understand every facet. So if you got to look at it like a leader. As a leader, you're not going to be an expert in every functional area of your business.
Mhm.
I'm a generalist. I'm not an expert. I'm not the best web developer. I'm not the best graphic designer. I'm
Mhm.
not the best podcast host. I'm not the best of a lot of things, but I'm a really good leader, and I
Mhm.
can bring the best together and create a single vision and bring all those people, all those experts together to create something. So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to look at yourself as a leader, and as a leader, then you need to look at yourself as not needing to be the subject matter expert in every single thing.
Right.
You need to leverage the strengths of other people. Stop acting like you don't need to have every answer. You
Mhm.
need to lean on your folks. There's someone on your team that's better than you
Mhm.
in certain regards. You
Mhm.
need to lean on them. Lean on that strength.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid to outsource things or to delegate. If you can't outsource or you can't delegate, you're never going to be able to create you might be able to create a small little economy of a business. You might be able to generate a couple thousand every month, but
Mhm.
something that's going to grow exponentially, you're not going to be able to do that, because you won't be able to get out your own way. When you want exponential growth, you're going to need to grow your staff or outsource. It's super important. So once again, know the different functional areas so that people can't BS you.
Mhm.
If someone says a task is going to take 8 hours, you
Mhm.
might know, oh no, you can get that done in four because A, B, C, and D. You might not know how to do it, or you might have done it 10 years ago, but just having that knowledge so that they can't get over on you is ultra important. But don't be afraid to delegate that when it's necessary.
Right, right. That is some excellent advice. And I like the quote from so long ago that says, "No man is an island," and it basically says, you can't do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to be able to delegate. And if you do know a little bit of something, then you kind of know when something is wrong. And if anything, if all else, you could have somebody else do some cross checking for you to say, hey, you know what? Wait a minute. I mean, because me, I watch American Greed all the time. I love that show.
Yes.
I love that show because you just watch it and you look and you think, wow, this person just was not on their game. Like they totally just let it slide by and now they don't have a business anymore.
Yep.
So yeah, I totally respect what you just said. Now back to the website itself. Now what is the difference between your social media platform and other social media platforms?
Well, the difference is with 6 zeros we went with a traditional form layout.
Mhm.
If you can scroll up and then go into the click on the cookout
The
if you
cook.
don't mind.
Where's that at?
It's go to the left
Okay, to the left. Oh,
and
I
then
see it.
down. Yeah,
Okay,
so
the
you go to
cookout.
so the difference is that is our layout is about it's about the content. Social media is more about the people,
Mhm.
and so you see you have more hot takes, more small bites on social media, and
Mhm.
this is more about a discussion. It's about creating topics that generate discussion. So it's a little bit more involved,
Okay.
and it's more niche, and so that's what that's why I went with the forum, as opposed to trying to mimic a Twitter or mimic a Facebook. I've seen that happen
Right.
a multitude of times,
Right.
and it's just it. I think you're just trying to go up against a juggernaut. So I'm like, let me go with the form, the traditional form, and it's been working out so far.
Well, I like what you just said because, if you just mimic what is already done, 9 times out of 10, I think people end up going back over there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're just gonna make a Twitter,
Mhm.
like let's say you want to make a black Twitter.
Right.
Well, Twitter already has Twitter, and Twitter is probably going to do Twitter better than you can do Twitter. It's going to do it faster. They're going to
Mhm.
have better infrastructure. It's going to load. They're going to have apps on every major platform possible. They're going
Mhm.
to have more access, and then they have a bigger black community than you. So it's like it's too many hurdles to climb. So I'm like, let me pivot. Well, not pivot, but let me just do something different.
Mhm.
And try to deliver value in multiple ways.
Well, the ice is colder, so we always gonna go back. So that's just what it is.
Well, hopefully we change that mentality. That
Right.
that mentality. I think that when we look in retrospect, it's a lot of times it's easy to judge people's their behaviors, because when we look in retrospect, we looking through
Mhm.
an intellectual frame of thought. But what we don't factor in a lot of the times is the emotional aspect of being denied,
Yes.
the emotion of not feeling good enough, the emotion of not being able to go on the other side of the freeway or those train tracks, and
Mhm.
then one day that there's a pathway across those train tracks. you know um there's a lot of people that felt like maybe emotionally vindicated or emotionally accepted, and they ran over there to get that white man's ice because they felt it was colder. And that it was an inferiority complex.
Mhm.
So I don't think it was the right move.
Mhm.
I don't agree with it.
Mhm.
I have a lot of disdain for some people that think like that, but I understand it. I
Yes.
don't agree with it. I don't like it, but I understand it.
And I agree with you. We definitely have to do a lot of inward work to actually understand the workings of our people, because it's easy to just say somebody is a coon. It's easy to say that this person is a sellout. It's easy to say that. But even if you look in your own life and you see where you have been denied, you see where you have been rejected, you see where you have been unfairly treated, you can see where if there is a way out of that, sometimes our people do, just go ahead and take that way out, because why would you want to live this life of struggle if you don't have to? But I mean, of course, what they don't realize is there's always going to be struggle, even if you're on the other side. You're going to be struggling over there with less Black people by yourself, But I think if we really take a hard look, we can understand why people do what they do, why they want that ice, why, they just decide to, quote, live a better life than what you would have to live on this side of the tracks. So I
And I
definitely understand that.
and I look at it like, okay, you still a coon, but I understand why you a coon. I understand why it was easy for you to just go over
Right,
on the other side of the train track, as
right.
opposed, because like for instance, Malcolm X back here, his mentality
Mhm.
was a difficult mentality because I talked about this on the forum today. I said the difference, like, we have struggle and adversity ahead of us. When you're on this path, you
Mhm.
have nothing but struggle,
Mhm.
and then there's a reward at the end. When
Mhm.
you coon out, sell out, you have the reward in the beginning, and
Mm.
then you get the pain at the end. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, they don't accept you, they don't like you. You're a tool, and they break their tools, as Professor Black Truth always says.
Mhm.
So they're gonna break you in the end,
Mhm.
and so you'll get your wake up call sooner or later, but you'll have all this reward. And so there's a lot of Black people that will sacrifice all of us because they want that reward
Mhm.
now. They
Mhm.
don't want the pain and the reward at the end. And a lot of it's just pure cowardice.
Yep.
They'll rather I want to make sure my family eats and everybody else can suffer as long
Yes.
as I can get my plate of food. And Black people for a long time, and this is not just Black Americans, this is like as a global Black race,
Yes.
there was a pivotal moment where we stopped playing as a team and we were playing as individuals, or we always played as individuals. But then when we had a power come against us that played as a team, they
Mhm.
played on code. They said
Mhm.
we are team white and
Mhm.
came at us as team white, and we were still, oh, I'm Yoruba, I'm Igbo, I'm Mande, I'm Fulani, and all this. And then we just end up getting bombed on because we never were able to figure out, yo, okay, they're playing with as a team, we're playing
Mhm.
as individuals, and we end up losing out like that. And
Yeah, you don't
that's
get
why,
anywhere being an individual at
yeah,
all.
that's why our continent is is a open air plantation. Our home continent is a damn plantation. It's like, who's getting the proceeds from all those minerals? It's not them.
No, no, they're actually being made to work on their own land to hand the wealth over to someone else. I
Yup.
mean, in so many aspects, when you think about what is it, the coltan, and how the kids are having to dig up, all this, and I mean, the children are slaves. You know,
Exactly, they're slaves.
yeah, the children are slaves, and here being in this Western society, we don't even think of those things. We don't even touch those things. And what I find hard to just understand is how we're on social media so much, but we fail to even understand what is going on in the world past the massive media, because there's so much information out here concerning what is going on with our people. Really, I mean, you see what they want you to see, but for some reason, people are in other places where they are just not really taking in real information.
Yeah,
And
well,
I try to figure this out, because it's like, okay, are people watching music videos? What are they watching? If they're not really trying to take in real information past the regular media, what are they taking in?
social media is the regular media, so they're not gonna show you the real. So you got to go to alternative sources, and
Yes.
I think a lot of the times is a lot of people, like, think about it. We have our own form of slavery in this country.
Oh,
The thing that we have, and obviously when I say that, someone's gonna be like, okay, we have slavery in prison. But we have a different type of slavery. The difference is that our standard of living is higher,
mm-hmm,
so people don't see it. But
mm-hmm.
there's a reason why people have midlife crises and things like that, because we are enslaved by debt.
Yes.
So we have these debts, and we have to pay for water, we have to pay for food, we have to pay for shelter. So
Mm-hmm.
since you're in this system where you have to pay for everything you need to
Mm-hmm.
exist,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to figure out. So they say you can get these things, but we have this medium of exchange, or we have this currency that we use
Mm-hmm.
in order to, if you give me some of this currency, I'll let you stay somewhere. If you give me some of this currency, I'll let you have some water. If you
Mm-hmm.
give me some of this currency, I'll let you have some food. So then the next question is, how do I get this currency?
Right.
Now you get this currency by working for one of those corporations,
Mm.
and some of these multinational corporations are the ones that are enslaving the people in Africa. So you go
Yeah.
work for one of them, and you exchange your time, which is your most valuable resource.
Mm-hmm.
You exchange your most valuable resource for that currency, so that you can pay to have a place to live, to have water to drink, to have food to eat. So you end up being in this cycle where you're not working your agenda. You're
Right.
going to work to
Mm-hmm.
have a place to live, and that place to live, it's just a place for you to be at when you're not at work.
Right.
A
And you're
lot of people
never
don't even have
there.
money. Yeah, a lot of people don't even have money to do anything other than to go to work and come home. And they
Right.
go they the home is basically the slave quarters for them, but it's a decentralized slave quarters. It's
Mm-hmm.
a slave quarters where the corporation just gives you enough money to
Mm-hmm.
pay for your food, to pay for your housing, to pay for your transportation, to come back to the plantation. So a lot of people are in slavery in this country right now, but their standard of living is slightly higher, so they don't see that as slavery. That's why it's so ingenious. They give you an Xbox and a PlayStation and TV and Twitter, and you don't realize you're in slavery. But
Mm.
you feel the depression inside. You feel the discontent inside. You feel that you're not fulfilled inside, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't figure out why, because you don't realize that you're in slavery, because
Yeah,
you
you're not
get to
free.
drive there. Yeah, you're not free, but you get to drive to the plantation, and that fools you into believing that it's not a plantation when it is. It's just an ingenious way of doing it.
It's
It's
a glorified plantation, and it's all over the world, you know. And I think that now that we have entered into this situation with the pandemic, whatever, everybody is trying to find somewhere better to live. But reality is, I don't think that there is anywhere better to live. I mean, you might find something slightly better over here, but as Black people, we are oppressed around the world. Like, really, we really are. But there are people that's just right now, okay, maybe I should run to Africa. Maybe I should run to Brazil. Maybe I should do this. No, you have to stop where you're at. And what I'm saying now is it's time to not necessarily try to make more money. That's not a bad thing. I mean, of course, if you can get more money and use your mind and do those things, that's great. But it's about cutting expenses now. If you are living in a place that you're never at because you're always at work, and if you decide you're going to always be at work anyway, why don't you just lessen your where you live? Why don't you just lessen your rent or your mortgage or whatever? Live in something smaller since you're never there. And it's all about cutting expenses in this time.
yeah.
We are in a different place right now economically. I mean, gas, you know, I see it on social media. They're talking about gas going up. I mean, my solution is always Costco. I'm sure it's going up at Costco too. I don't know, but I don't have to be on the road like that. So I'm not that concerned. But you know, it's all about cutting expenses now. What is it that you don't need? You're not going back to wherever you were a couple of years ago. I mean, simplicity. If you're still going to Starbucks, I don't know why. If you're still going to Starbucks, it's time to cut that stuff out. If you have all this, well, even if you have cable, some people still have cable. If you have cable, even some of these apps that you have for your TV and, you know, extra phones, you know, it's all about cutting expenses now. There's always somewhere where you can cut back because now economically we're in a different place and you should be doing different things with the money that you have.
Yeah, I agree. And then also just understanding that black people are all that you have.
Mm,
No one's gonna look out for you. No one
mm-mm,
is gonna ensure your safety other
mm-mm,
than other black people.
right.
No one else cares about your plight. No one cares about our plight. The thing is, if someone doesn't have to respect you, then they're not gonna respect you. That's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of how life goes. So,
Right. They don't have to. So why would
yeah,
they? Why would they? I
yeah,
mean, they have a form. of godliness, but lack thereof. We see people, other people, I mean, you could say white people, I'll just say the Jews, having all these 501c3 organizations, all of these things that look like there's so much giving going on, and all of that, giving to people that they are inviting into this country, giving to people who, I mean, just all this giving going on, but there is no giving going on to the hood. Like there's a bunch of taking, there's gentrification going on, but there is no true giving to the people who, built this country. All these things done in the name of humanitarianism and all that, and it's just not happening for our people. Like you said, we have to learn to look out for each other. But how do we really start that, honestly? Because we got some issues.
Well, it is starting.
Okay.
It is starting. We're seeing it. We're seeing the cultural mind state shift.
Mm-hmm.
We could see like the Democratic Party is adjusting to this new. You can see their talking points changing. They're speaking to us because they see that we're becoming to be on code as Black Americans. They seeing that we're getting away from flat blackness. We're moving into a space where it's like you're either black first or you're just not black.
Right.
You're just something other, and they see that forming,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's slowly happening, and there's the new black media that's instrumental in shifting this mind state. Before in the black community, intersectionality, black and brown, these type of terms were just normal terms that you would see. Voting for Democrats was a normal thing. It was uh it was just normal things that we would accept. And today, if you talk to the average black person, they're not 100%, oh, we're just going to vote Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. They're like black and brown is actually starting to become a bad word in our community. A rising tide lifts all boats, minority coalitions. These things are all bad words now. And so so that's part of us changing the way we think and understanding that we need to have our agenda. And for so long, we never had a black first agenda. Our agenda was we are the world, and we thought we were going to have unity with all these different groups that were coming into the United States of America. But what we found out is that they just want their piece of the pie, and if they got to step on you to get their piece of the pie, they will. So we got stepped on, and
Well,
we realized.
they actually have assistance in stepping on you because, as most of us know by now, when they bring people in from other countries, they can now identify as white, which brings up the whole census issue, because as a whole, they are diminishing. So they bring these other people in the country and they can identify as white. And it just that topic is just so crazy to me because I look at it from a certain vantage point. A lot of people don't know about the World Trade Center in everyone's state. The World Trade Center, they invite foreign people, foreign born people to come in and start a business. They assist them in starting business. But you can go in there as a black person, they're not going to help you.
Exactly.
It's so, I mean, that's just, it pokes me, it just really does. It bothers me so much. But you know what? Your platform is definitely one that is bringing our people closer together. And we so appreciate you for what you're doing. And I want to make sure that people know how to go to the platform. And there's a way to register, and you can have the free plan, the premium plan, and then the premium plus plan. I assume that the premium and premium plus plan go to supporting the platform as a whole. So we can encourage people to look at those different aspects of those plans and go ahead and support versus just the free version. But if that's all that you can do right now, then go ahead and do that. But look to upgrade later on and visit the platform and support. So let's let the people know, one, how they can contact you if they'd like to, have a talk with you, or be in your forum or something like that, and then also get to your social media platform.
Well, you can get in contact with me at 6zeros.net. You can see the URL right there on the screen. It's the number 6zeros.net. My username on there is J, so that's the best way to get in contact with me if you want to ask me any questions or communicate. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you there.
Yes,
You
yes. Well,
that's watching you.
well, we so thank you so much, and we look to support you in all that you're doing. Many blessings to you and everyone that has been your supporter so far. Do you have any last words for the people?
Yeah, my last words I want to say to people is remember that you have the power to change your life. You have the power to change your fate. Nothing in life is predetermined. Nothing you see is predetermined. There's nothing that says that your situation or our collective situation has to be that way. We have the power to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sit around and wait for someone else to do something. If there's something that needs to be done and you identify it, it's now your job to do it. Okay? You don't say, "Oh, we need X and we need Y. I wish we had Y." Well, why aren't you doing it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Start doing it. Link with other people to do it. And then other black people, when you see people in the community taking that leadership position and creating that infrastructure, those resources that we need, you have to support it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop playing as individuals. Everybody else is playing as a team. Have you ever seen a basketball game where one team is playing as a team and the other team's playing as individuals? The individuals lose, and we've been losing for a millennia, if not longer. When black people are out here making moves, support them. Even if it's $1 more in some hair grease at a black beautician or black beauty salon or hair care supply, go pay that dollar more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see other communities. Koreans will they'll sell wave grease. Okay, if you a black person and you make wave grease and you try to sell it to a Korean hair care supply, they'll say, "Hell no. No, I'm only buying wave grease from another
Right.
Korean." And
Right.
none of them could use the wave grease. None of them even know what the wave grease is. You might come in with the best hair grease possible that waves your hair up. It has the most dipping and spinning 360s,
Right.
but they will never buy from you because they play as a team.
Yes.
So you need to realize that you need to play as a team. Cut the nonsense off. Cut the individualism out. Cut the "I'm only caring about me." Cut that nonsense off. And if you are one of those people that can't cut that nonsense off, then we're going to let the system
Mm,
do what it's going to do with you,
mm.
because there is no great end result for you and your individualism. With
Mm.
that, signing off.
Well, that was some wise words. I mean, we have to continue to work as a collective, collaborate, and I would say search your heart for whatever pain that causes you to feel disdain against other Black people, because we got to get past all of that. We know that we've been indoctrinated to hate one another, but it's time to definitely come out of that. So we want to thank you. And what we like to do is read a scripture from Philippians 4:8, which is, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things." I'm Sisi on air, and I thank you so much for joining me, and we will talk to you again very soon.